Hi, we're back, and I'm taking a couple of calls over the net here, and I just wanted to explain a little bit about what it is that I feel that we should be focusing on and doing right now, what I'm being called to do, or the signals that I'm getting. I think that there's a need for communication and conversation regarding the teachings of the new Aquarian dispensation, and specifically as they relate to experiences or information as it's received by people in Church Universal and Triumphant. That doesn't mean I'm not interested in other parts of New Age theology at all, but I'm Summit Lighthouse Chelas, so my my information is going to be from that perspective. These are not just Cree sessions, as many of you have detected. These are not prayer sessions necessarily, although we can meditate and focus together. And processing information really is the work of the Ascended Masters, so it is a form of prayer. I just don't want people to lose sight of the fact that in addition to focusing on me, there are also, and the communications I receive or the conversations that we have together, the communications that we jointly receive. There's also decreeing, and if you don't know much about it, you should look up Violet Flame decreeing activity, specifically as it's described by Mother Elizabeth Clare Prophet. That's how I want to pursue this. I thought it would make sense. There's a lot of information, a lot of false information. One of the things that I discovered when I joined the Summit Lighthouse was that it's important to adhere to the true teachings. Not that individuals outside of my particular religion, my particular mystical school, the Summit Lighthouse, are going necessarily to be false. It's possible that they are false, and I'm finding a lot of variant information out there. We try, to the best of our capability, to adhere to the dispensation as received by Mark and Elizabeth Clare Prophet, as well as the true teachings of Saint Germain and the legacy of I Am activity. So we feel that Mother was, I can't even say that everybody says that, but that we feel that Summit Lighthouse and Church Universal and Triumphant were the rightful heirs of the dispensation, which came down through Ascended Master Godfrey and Lotus, Guy and Edna Ballard, and then through Geraldine and Ascente and Bridge of Freedom and that sort of thing. So what I'm doing is trying to process information that I'm receiving. I do plan on writing a book, and also listening to your questions and your the different sorts of concerns that you might have or revelations that you might be encountering, and handling those and discussing them. But again, I feel that I'm processing information as we go through this. So if we can focus together and understand that, sometimes there are periods in which I'm not talking or in which I'm reading directly from the internet and that sort of thing. And that's very important because I'm going to be compiling this information and utilizing it as we go along. And down the line, part of my project here is to find the right information that I need for the book that I'll be writing on the new dispensation. That's sort of the shape of this. Some of the remarks that I make are fairly specific. I'm not necessarily. I wouldn't exclude people who are new to New Thought, spirituality, or ancient wisdom at all. And perhaps you'll glean from my specific focus on details, the broader teachings and the broader picture, and I hope that you do. But this is geared also towards people who are going to be, who consider themselves or who are somewhat established within the Great White Brotherhood, and who already consider themselves to be light bearers and have, information sufficient to support this level of conversation. What I'm trying to do is hear and to take a look and see what sort of questions you're putting forth and responding directly to them. let's see. Yes, I can answer that question. Talking about the dispensation. If you look up Lipo, Li space Po, he's a gentleman in Sedona who has material posted on the internet, still on YouTube, and his real name is, I believe his well, quote unquote real name or given name, birth name is Yakama Lee. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. He might have changed his name a couple of different times, but he's basically like me. I would say I would consider him to be a monk. I think that he runs what he calls an ascension group. Now, he's not specifically part of the Summit Lighthouse anymore, but he was among the first 500 people to get invited to Montana when Mother bought the ranch, Grand Teton Ranch, Royal Teton Ranch, rather. And I believe that it was originally, that's a big piece of property for those of you who don't know. It's essentially the New Age homeland, part of our version of Zion. And I say that in all seriousness. It's somewhat of an oddball concept, I think, to people who are really coming from the perspective of mainline religion. But Elizabeth Clare Prophet and Mark Prophet were inspired. I think that Mark had made his ascension already by the time the ranch was purchased. I think Mark was alive for La Tourelle and part of Los Angeles and Beverly. They weren't in Beverly Hills. I think they were in Santa Barbara for a while. If you go to the website, thesummitlighthouse.org, there's a lot of really good information, and there's a very good sort of handheld camera documentary on Mother's transition from, Mark established the Summit Lighthouse back in the 50s in Washington, and then it moved. The Summit Lighthouse moved. Church Universal and Triumphant, I don't believe, was established until around 72 or 74, and that was Mother's sort of child. Mark died in 72, I believe. I think that's when he made his ascension. And so, but you can, if you go to tsl.org, the summitlighthouse.org, the official Summit Lighthouse website, you'll find all sorts of links to teachings conducted by Elizabeth Clare Prophet, videos of Elizabeth Clare Prophet, and they're classic. They're brilliant lectures. She recorded. It's a worldwide. It's known that she recorded more dictations from masters than any other person in human history. Just it's phenomenal, just the amount that she received and the extent to which she was able to key in on messages coming from beyond and above and through the ascended masters and through the various dimensions and octaves and that sort of thing. They're brilliant, and they're brilliant irrespective of what you believe. Some of you might be here, and I sort of want to address this issue. Some of you might be here as skeptics coming from the major Christian churches or the Jewish faith or the other major world religions. We consider ourselves to be adherents to the mystical path of the 8 major world religions. So we're not Orthodox Christians or Orthodox Islamic people. We follow the mystical traditions in each of those branches of God's greater church, and also study Ascended Master theology and Violet Flame. We work with Violet Flame and mantras in addition to that. My level of participation, I'm a Chela and brother in the Order of St. Joseph, which is one of the holy orders within the church. Our mission, as it was explained to us in a dictation received by Elizabeth Clare Prophet, I believe it was in 1986, from Saint Germain, is to compile information about Mother's Church, disseminate that information, maintain archives of that information, make sure that it's properly understood, participate in publishing. Summit University Press is a if you go into your Barnes and Noble, or you go into your a local Barnes and Noble or a similar bookstore, you'll find all sorts of books by Elizabeth Clare Prophet published by Summit University Press. So a major part of the church's work at this juncture is that publishing material, and a lot of the effort is dedicated towards the maintenance of the publishing effort. But I'm here to participate and to provide you with information. The part of I'm wanting to answer that question. The dispensation is considered to have gone, people in theosophy, what we are is a form of theosophy. We're also Gnostics, and technically speaking, although it's a misunderstood term, we're New Age theologians. New Age is the term I think that can unfortunately be associated with a certain degree of disparagement. It shouldn't, because some of our greatest educational theorists, such as Rudolf Steiner, were on the cusp of that, and were Alice Bailey and others were New Age theosophists essentially. We try to retool it. I think New Thought spirituality is really the way that we term it, and we're also referred to as ancient wisdom as well, if that's helpful to anybody. But I believe a lot of the information that we have right now was handed down through Madame Blavatsky, who was writing and receiving information from the masters, back in the 20s and so forth, and I think even earlier than that. I think that probably Edna and Guy Ballard came around in the 20s, and Madame Blavatsky I think was even late 1800s. And I should really look that up, because I've been having so many questions about Madame Blavatsky lately. And one of the she wrote a very good essay for people who are interested on the planet Venus, and how Christianity for quite some period of time wanted to sort of what's the word? How am I trying to put it? Venus was associated with Satan and Lucifer for a good period of time, and Blavatsky's whole effort was to salvage the notion that things can be, and Steiner did this as well. Steiner identified a Luciferian energy, and did not consider it to be satanic. So when you read that particular essay, it's a really good, short, easy to understand, but comprehensive and articulate introduction into Madame Blavatsky, who was an early theosophist. Let's see here. I want to say the late 1800s. Right. She established this Theosophical Society in 1875. Okay? So most modern... Blavatsky defined theosophy as the archaic wisdom religion, capital letters with a hyphen in there, the esoteric doctrine once known in every ancient country having claims to civilization. And she wrote, another book that she wrote is The Secret Doctrine, and that's considered to be her magnum opus, is how they're putting it here. But she has a leading name in the New Age movement. Then, subsequent to that, the dispensation went from Blavatsky to the Ballards. To the best of my knowledge, that's the order. And then from the Ballards, I think it was to Geraldine Innocente, and then to Mark Prophet, and then to the Summit Lighthouse and CUT. Certainly Mother was the next in line for the dispensation. I mean, she received all of the information and had Church Universal and Triumphant. Church Universal and Triumphant is a name that comes from teachings of Mary Baker Eddy, who was the head of the Christian Science Church. She anticipated, rather, she referred to Church Universal and Triumphant. What it means is, in the Bible, the Church Universal, rather the Church Triumphant, are the Christians in heaven. The church militant are the Christians and the believers on earth. Hence the name Church Universal and Triumphant, which was, I believe that at the very least that Mary Baker Eddy referred to Church Universal, and then I think that it was conflated into Church Universal and Triumphant by Mother Elizabeth Clare Prophet. We're not Christian Scientists, but Mary Baker Eddy is considered to be an ascended master within our church. There are many ascended masters within the church, and you can look those up as well on tsl.org, and I'll be talking about them as well. Saint Germain being the master with whom I think we're most closely, not necessarily closely affiliated, but is probably how people identify us outside of the church. The Saint Germain followers or adherents, managers of his dispensation, if you will. And I'm trying to see if maybe there are more questions. I will give you more information about Saint Germain. I want to know a little bit more about the specifics of his mission in Europe. He was called the Wonder Man of Europe. He lived. There was an actual Saint Germain, and our belief is that the different masters have various manifestations and appear at various points in history, and that they're basically re-embodied on multiple different occasions. One of the teachings, one of the ways in which we differ from typical Christianity, mainline Christianity, is, and Mother will say this on her site as well, is we believe in reincarnation. And also, and this is important, I think, as well, what's known as progressive revelation, meaning that we believe that the truth is continuously being revealed. So it is acceptable and lawful from a biblical perspective, from the perspective of Scripture, but also from the perspective of our need to be in touch with a higher Christ consciousness, to receive additional information and for the truth to be continuously revealed. And we have teachings that were delivered by Mother and Mark, known as Pearls of Wisdom. And they're the masters. Beloved Mary, Mary the Mother of Christ, is one of the masters. Teachings from El Moria, who is embodied as Thomas More, also embodied as King Arthur. So, and you can read those as well if you go to tsl.org. Again, I can send them to you additionally if you'd like to take a look at them. So, let's see. I have, but Germain, I want to know more about Germain as well, because I'd like to have a sense of exactly who he was when he was embodied as the saint. But one of the notions, beliefs, is that he lived forever. I know that, and we don't necessarily discuss his immortality. We do. It's that I haven't really encountered teaching specific to that, but it is. You can look it up on the internet. That is one of the beliefs associated with Germain. Also, that Germain was embodied as Shakespeare. Let's see here. If I can find some information about Germain, I'll give you guys a little bit of additional. Okay. Oh, someone got knocked off. That's not good. Okay, that's I think that's a server. That's a server issue there. Let's see who else is on here. Okay. Yeah, and let me see what I can come up with for you. So. El Moria was embodied as Arthur. Germain was Merlin, Mother was Guinevere. Let's see, how does this work? Right, and we consider that Mark Prophet, and you can see a picture of him, and again, he's the gentleman who is now an Ascended Master. We call him Ascended Master Lanello, which the name Lanello is actually derived from Lancelot. So those are those are some of the figures in Ascended Master theology within the court of Camelot. Saint Germain. Okay, and we're not the Saint Germain Foundation, but the Saint Germain Foundation, I don't know if they're part of the legitimate dispensation or not. If they're connected to the Ballards, they are, because the Ballards are considered to be Ascended Masters within our church. And both have made their ascension. Let's take a look and see. Okay. This looks like it might be, they say, the true source, which, and their music is very loud as well. I'm going to have to turn that down. But we're not simply Church Universal and Triumphant, Mother's Church, and I'll call it Mother's Church. Church Universal and Triumphant and the Summit Lighthouse are synonymous, essentially. Summit Lighthouse was Mark Prophet. He ascended in 1972. Mother founded Church Universal and Triumphant, I think, right around the time of Mark's ascension. And same couple, same group of people, really. There are, CUT communicants. I think a lot of the Church Universal and Triumphant people are probably the people who up and actually moved out there, although that's not necessarily the case either. Because I think back then it was Summit Lighthouse as well. So it's really one and the same thing. And we're not simply Mighty I Am Presence, Violet Flame activity, Saint Germain activity, because we're also the people who follow the mystical paths of the 8 major world religions. And so we do differ, although, we're considered to be, Gnostic to an extent. We study the Book of Enoch. We believe in summon angels. There are some, one of the essential teachings that if you go to the site and you watch the recordings by Mother, includes the belief that the Bible was basically manipulated improperly by early church fathers and that sort of thing. The belief in the hypostasis, Christ, sort of the personality, the personhood of Christ, differs from what is taught by, say, the Catholic Church, for instance. And those are fascinating differences. And to some extent, one belief offsets the other. And we don't tell people what to believe necessarily, but we do have an idea as to what it is that should be taught and practiced. I'd like to write, that's my mission, is to write a book on Christology, so that I can delineate and record specifically where Church Universal and Triumphant differs from the Catholic Church, the Reformed churches, the Protestant churches, and that sort of thing. There's a huge debate. There's a big resurgence in theological debates between atheists and non-atheists and the like, and I think it's time again. I think it's because we're on the threshold. We've started the Aquarian Age. This is the age of Saint Germain. Saint Germain is the hierarch of the Aquarian Age. So we're moving out of Pisces, the age in which Christ was more prevalent, into the age in which Germain is taking over. And in my opinion, and Mother puts it very articulately, again, if you look on the sites and listen to the videos, watch the videos, there's the Christian impulse, which was Piscean. I don't say Christian. Well, in a sense, I suppose that's probably an okay neologism, because it's not Christian in the typical sense, but necessarily, although many Christians are going to relate to a lot of this information. The age of Pisces was the age of the Piscean sort of sense of peace and love. And Jesus used to rule the sixth ray, which is the solar plexus chakra, and is now the Chohan now is Lady Master Nada. Jesus has since ascended into the office of the world teacher, but that sixth ray on the solar plexus is where peace emanates from there, and Jesus is the Prince of Peace, as we all know. Now, as the New Age, the quote unquote New Age, comes more fully into being, Germain's interest begins to emerge. Germain, the father of Jesus. Germain was embodied as Saint Joseph, and I believe that since it's Aquarian and is Aquarius is ruled by the planet Uranus. Uranus is a higher octave of Mercury. We're talking about information now. Now's the time to promulgate information. Now's the time for us to communicate, and also to pursue the humanitarian efforts that are, part of the Uranian Aquarian dispensation as well. Aquarians are, or the Aquarian energy is enormously humanitarian. That's those are what we think about. We think about the transitioning era, sort of the placement of the masters, what the masters are inspiring within us, how the world is changing. We look to a golden age that we need to actualize, and we use violet flame to transmute our own situations. When there's negativity and bad karma that needs to be changed, that's when we use mantras. Mantras are, it's not a difficult concept, truly. I think we have the sense, before I started in with Summit Lighthouse, you have the sense that a mantra is just sort of a silly thing that they do in the mysterious Orient. Well, our belief is that the Orient is hugely important, and the occult practices of the Orient, occult meaning in the West, our belief practice has to do with people telling us what to believe or instructing us what to believe and how we should go about maintaining our lives vis-a-vis God. In the Orient, in the East, Eastern religions, a lot of that information is cultivated through inner reflection. So it's important that we bring some of that into our own mystical efforts, and that's what it is that we, intend to do. That's it. And mantras. Let me finish that up because I wanted to make sure that question was answered. Right. So you think that it's and not to pick on the Hare Krishnas because they have their own sort of energy and focus, but we sort of associate it with a kind of hippie, detached, or not really meaningful effort. But really, if you conduct mantras in what we call decreeing, which is a form of dynamic prayer, if you could conduct it in a serious fashion, you will implement change. Change will occur if you know how to pray. But the prayer is dynamic and different, and we can discuss that probably in another session. But it doesn't resemble the prayer that you encounter in the traditional Eastern, rather Western Christian churches. That's essentially the beginning of how it is that I wanted to introduce what it is that I intend to do here. And again, I'm hoping that this will provide a basis for people who are new. But I think what I intend to do here, and as you can see, I'm not leading a prayer session and we're not conducting mantras, is to manage information in the spirit of Saint Germain's establishment of the Order of Saint Joseph in 1986, and to help people navigate the the teachings, particularly the teachings that are coming from Mother's Church, and we'll continue to answer questions and just be here, and feel that again it might be some of the information might be too specific, but I'll try to keep both advanced students and newer people interested to the best extent, to the best that I can. But for the newer people, to the best of my ability. But for the newer people, definitely, certainly, and also people who just want to know more, who've been studying for a long time but haven't been paying attention to Mother's teachings for a while. Definitely go to the tsl.org. Also, if you go to YouTube, the name of the person managing a lot of that information is Summit Lighthouse, all one word, lowercase. And you will find all sorts of information. And there are free broadcasts, iPod broadcasts as well. 2 different lecture series that Mother conducted, and they're brilliant interviews talking about everything from karma to reincarnation, scripture. One series is called Family Designs for the Golden Age, and the second one is Inner Perspectives. And I can set you folks up with some of that information as well. Okay, I am going to take a break, and then I'll be back later on to talk more about Jermaine. All right.